My parents recovered less quickly than I did. While I was filled with confidence, they were filled with dread when I came out of it.
I think with my family and friends, when I finished treatment, they didn't want to talk about it or were sick of talking about it, or they think, oh, you're finished, you should be happy. I think whereas for me it took a bit longer to come to terms with the fact that it was over and that I was going to be okay, because you don't think you're going to be. But in terms of how they coped with it, I don't think I had to counsel them through it. I think they were happy to sort of put it behind and move on.
Of course they were devastated. Of course they were anxious. Of course they had no answers. And having no answers does drive you mad. What can they do? What can I do? I can imagine them feeling that way. The anxiety, the pain they were suffering, I could see it myself.
They were terrified that, again, they may not be able to do anything physically to help. And I had to not so much counsel them, but constantly remind them that things were okay. People
are curious normally, interested. They sort of want to know, but they're a bit nervous to ask, and it's the whole awkward, oh, did you hurt your knee playing sport? And I said, oh no, had bone cancer. And they kind of go, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up. And that's fine, but they sort of want to know. I think it's nice to try and encourage people to ask, because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't really know what chemo was. And being, quite young, it doesn't happen a lot.
I've talked about it all the time. I don't feel guilty about it. I think a lot of people feel guilty about getting cancer, which to me is extraordinary. I mean, if you get appendicitis, you don't feel guilty, do you? No, but some people are reluctant to talk about their cancers, but I haven't been reluctant.
People did shy away from it a bit, and that there's certainly an element of having to manage those, relationships, in the sense that you have to, bring it to the table and make people feel comfortable with that. And so, you're sitting people down and explaining stuff, and making sure they're informed.
I had a lot of support from my family, my husband, my mother, brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, the children. They've all been incredible. My oldest son is petrified, so he just wants to hear that everything's okay, which is fine. The middle boy is a lot more open. He's 18, but he had an experience of a childhood friend that survived cancer, so he has a positive attitude. And the young one just doesn't want to know about it.
I enjoyed the phone calls, but I did like the spontaneous visits, and they were all very aware that if I didn't feel well enough or didn't want them there, that they wouldn't be offended if I made it really short. Other people would come and talk about things that I'd been involved in and let me know what was happening in that area, and that was really wonderful. And then when I started feeling more enthusiastic about going out, then would often meet for coffee or for lunch. But lots of phone calls as well. It was lovely.
In my family there wasn't any sort of history regarding breast cancer, so it was quite a shock to me in that, out of the blue I get diagnosed with breast cancer. So in that sense, hasn't been a genetical issue, but it does concern me that I've got a young adult daughter who possibly is at a greater risk now. That does play on your mind a little bit sometimes. You think, well, I hope she never has to go through what I've gone through.
You may be concerned about your children's risk of developing cancer, especially if there is a family history. Passing your genes on doesn't mean that your children will develop cancer. And the older you were when you were diagnosed with cancer, the less likely that genes will have played a part. Speak with your doctor if you're concerned. They'll be able to give you more information and may refer you for genetic counselling and testing.